You're listening to the Future Tech Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies such as artificial intelligence, stem cells, 3D printing, gene editing, Bitcoin, blockchain, the microbiome, quantum computing, virtual reality, and exploring space are much closer than you might think. In fact, many early versions of these technologies are in play right now, and the companies that are using these technologies are the focus of this podcast. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a thorny medical problem. Remember, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and tell your friends about it. Thank you.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Future Tech Podcast, and I have Brian McCarthy. He's a co-founder of Dentistry.com. Brian, thanks for coming.
I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah. So tell me, I've been pretty interested in dentistry lately, actually, because starting to explore some of the elements of it that I think aren't commonplace. So I'm glad to talk to you. So tell me about Dentistry.com. What's the premise of the company, and what does it do?
Perfect. So I would start by saying, and maybe it sounds provocative, but I think it can be supported, that there's an epidemic in the United States of tooth decay and really of people taking very poor quality care of their mouths, and there's so much need for that because the relationship between oral care and overall wellness is being documented, and it's profound. So this leads to overall health problems and emotional distress and kind of limiting people in job interviews and limiting people even going out on dates. I mean, people are uncomfortable with the health of their mouth. So dentists have been slow to adopt the mobile web and how consumers interact with service providers, in particular healthcare. Accenture has a report out saying that by 2019, this year, that 67% of adults in the United States will expect to be able to book their healthcare appointments online. But I don't know if you've tried, but there's the vast majority of dentists don't support online booking, right? And so that's really where Dentistry.com was born. We think that dentistry is in need of help. We want to raise the profile of dentistry, and we want to see that more people go to the dentist. Less than half of the population in a given year goes to the dentist. And, it's a travesty. We have to change that. That's what Dentistry.com is set up to do.
Yeah, well, I can give you, I'm a lay person in the dentistry world, but I can tell you when I've gone, it always looks like the office hasn't been touched since the 1980s. And, they are pretty antiquated. They still hand you paper clipboard and ask you to fill stuff out. And I wonder why they don't, hand you an iPad or something or do it electronically, right. But they don't do that. The websites are, again, really arcane. They just seem to be templates. And then, I don't know, the whole process just seems like it's mired like in at least 30 years ago, in terms of everything that's
technology
going on.
Of that
so,
day.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Fax machines.
Why do you think that is, by the way? What's the hesitancy on the part of dentists?
Well, I think one component of it is just simply that when you become a dentist, commonly you stay a dentist. And so the average age of the dentist in the United States is, it's probably late 40s or maybe even, mid 50s. And so these are people that started out 30 years ago and they're kind of stuck there. So, and I want to pause though, because what you're describing is absolutely, the case for too many practices out there, too many dentists. But there are there's a lot of change happening. A lot of people that have adopted, 21st century and are focused on the mobile device and the consumer experience, but it's just not enough. Too many consumers have the experience that you're describing.
It's funny. I was just thinking, my guess is that orthodontists probably would be, my daughter has braces, but my wife takes her. So I don't know, but I bet you that orthodontists actually are more young and hip because they deal with younger people in braces than regular dentists. So I bet you there's like a division in the dentistry world that's widening. That's just my guess, though. What's your experience?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you picked the right specialty for that description, because I wouldn't say that the same applies to, periodontists or some of these others, right, that tend to work with people that are older. So one big change, of course, that's come about in orthodonture is clear aligners. And then you look at Invisalign, and if you chop their growth, their stock growth and their market cap, they're just on fire, right? They've really taken the market by storm, and yet it's still way less than 50% of the braces that are put on are clear aligners. So, but I think most orthodontists have already adopted this latest technology like clear aligners. They offer it to those that want it, and for those that it makes sense. There's a lot of cases where clear aligners just simply won't work, and so you need to use the old school braces. But yeah, certain areas, there's pockets where they have advanced, and then there's other areas where they're kind of stayed and set in their old ways.
Okay. So what do you see as the dentists that are going with technology? What are they doing differently from the old school ones?
So so our parent company, one of their taglines is better, safer, faster dentistry, and so there's a lot of R&D being put into making dentistry faster and safer and better. And so, for instance, digital radiography, the practice that you're describing, I'm not sure if they're still using old school X-rays, but digital radiography, is it 1/10 of the radiation that's used or something? I'm not a clinician, so I don't want to act like I am. But there's new equipment that reduce risk. So like radiation. There's also machines now, and they're fine tuning them. They're making them better and better. They started out a couple decades ago, but the CEREC machine, you can go in with a broken tooth. You can go into a practice that has a CEREC machine. You can walk out an hour later with a completely repaired tooth, a replacement tooth or a crown. They call them inlays and onlays. And it used to be that you had to put this goo in your mouth, and then it had to harden, and then they would cast a replacement tooth for the short term and put it on. You have to come back a couple weeks later to get the long term. Today, you can walk out with a complete permanent, replacement again within, an hour. So there are a lot of advances that are happening, and that's part of what we're trying to do with dentistry.com too, is just to educate people. Fear is one of the great barriers: fear, pain, cost, and inconvenience. And so with dentistry.com, we're tackling fear and inconvenience. And one way to reduce fear is to educate people and let them know that there are these advances.
Well, also something I know too from my personal experience, like in my family, I'm lucky. I've had one cavity my whole life, and I brush my teeth every day, but I have zero problems. And then my wife, she's had problems all her life with her teeth. So
yeah,
someone like me, I think I don't think about the dentist. I forget about him, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's been 2 years. All right, I'll go. But I don't really feel like I need to go because I feel like I'm fine. But people that have problems, I'm sure they go more often, and maybe they dread going. I don't know. But I guess for a percentage of the population, they think, I don't need it. I'm fine.
I think some of that applies, but I would say that it is a misconception. Yes, you don't get cavities, but let's talk about the relationship of oral care to overall health, because around half of the population has some form of what they call dental caries or dental decay. So this is where the enamel has been eaten away. And so depending on your diet, and definitely your genes, as you're talking about, make a big difference, but it's also your diet, and then it's your care. But it's very common for people to have enamel that's worked away, and then there might be a cavity. But even if it's not a cavity, there's a lot of bacteria in your mouth, and bacteria leads to inflammation, and then inflammation reduces your immune system response. Right? So you might be perfectly fine with your mouth in terms of cavities, but you might still be impacting your overall health. So
really?
It's a misconception. It's not just about cavities. Well, I don't get cavities, I don't have to go. It's actually not true. You want to make sure that your mouth has been completely cleaned, because no matter if we brush and floss, we are not going to be able to get every area. So a hygienist comes in and does extra work. And then also you need a dentist to look at your mouth, because we're laymen, we don't know, but there are things that are brewing, that a dentist can catch way earlier. And in terms of cost, preventive care is always less expensive than if you wait too long. And the strange thing about the mouth is too often it's different than other parts of our body in that, there's a lot of bad things happening that you don't know because you don't feel it. Most of the time, you hurt yourself. It's like, oh, I hurt myself. And then you go in and get worked on. But with the mouth, preventive care is more important.
So what about the old school recommendation of, go every 6 months? Does that apply to most people, or is it more individualized than that?
Well, I would say that it's, as a general suggestion, it's right. But it's true that, once a year might be fine for some people, and 3 times a year might be fine for other people. I think you gotta talk to your dentist and and figure it out, because it is personalized. And I think the average dentist will give you a straight answer saying, look, you haven't had any cavities. You've been here 3 times in the last 5 years and you haven't had any cavities. And I look in your mouth and you take really good care. Maybe once a year is okay for you. So I think it's a personal thing. Yeah.
Okay. And then, what are some more of the things that you're seeing the most avant-garde dentists do, and is it helping them? And, what do the modern dentists look like now? What's the experience look like?
So clinically, I'll break it down, kind of clinical and business, right? Clinically, I think it is using the latest technology. So digital radiography and clear aligners, because now that they have clear aligners, and then there's these new scanners, they call 3D scanners. You stick a wand into the patient's mouth and you're moving that wand around and it's rendering a perfect 3D, digital replica of the mouth. So regular dentists, after some training, can offer clear aligners and you don't need to go to an orthodontist. So that's a big, that's a big change. I mentioned the CEREC machine. I think there's that. But then, the other side of it, on the business side, which we're more involved in, there are lots of dentists now who are taking a completely different approach to developing, their practice. So, like, for instance, pediatric dentists, you can find dentists now that have, practically have like jungle gyms in their offices, and they have all of these features that make it so much more enjoyable for the consumer. Or for the child. No one likes to be prodded and poked in their mouth, but you can reduce that, and headphones, and you're watching videos or listening to music. So there's that whole side of it. There's also this whole kind of spa thing that's happening too. So, there's this practice. There's this woman. She's got 3 practices up in the Seattle area, and she has when you come in as a patient, they pull you to the side and they do a one-on-one interview with you, and they get to understand who you are and what your likes and dislikes are. And they'll even provide foot massages while you wait. You come in 15 minutes early so that you can get a foot massage before you go in to get your teeth cleaned.
Oh, wow.
Or to get, So there's a lot of really cool innovations. It is the age of the consumer, and the business people that recognize that are the ones that are winning. Where they're really going way beyond what it used to be, the requirements to service the customer. And they're delighting their customers. And that's what we're seeing, and kind of fun. I think when you talk about raising the profile of dentistry, I think those are the kinds of things that have to happen. We have to really give them a great experience, because just getting your teeth cleaned is sometimes not enough to get, lots of people into the dentist.
Okay. And then what about follow-up? Dentists seem to just, at best, they, you go see them, great, then they disappear, and maybe they send you a little postcard, your teeth are due to be seen. Come see us. Any referral systems or, business marketing type stuff that really helps dentists?
Well, the big change here in the last couple of years has been texting. So now you can have lots of software. Our software does this. One of our packages that we sell to dentists, it's 2-way texting with the patient. So you text the patient and say, hey, you've got that scheduled appointment next week, and then the day before we send it, and so that's one element of it. There's also, you're not scheduled for an appointment, but you chipped a tooth or something, so you can send a text and actually start texting with the practice where the practice is responding to the consumer and talking it through. So, that's happening now. Maybe a little bit later, we can talk a little bit about the potential for teledentistry as well.
Oh, how would you do teledentistry?
Well, so of course, real dentistry, the patient needs to be in the office or on I suppose in a mobile practice, but you have to be there working. But when we talk about the barriers holding people back, convenience and inconvenience is a very significant one. So the direction that we're looking is teledentistry, but it's not, of course, getting a crown through the phone. That's not going to happen. But how about that you want to inquire about a dentist that you haven't used before, or you've got a pain and you're concerned, and whether you're an existing patient or whether you don't have a dentist. With the technology today, you can stream, you can do a video call with a dental practice, and whether it's the hygienist or a technician or a doctor, and you can actually begin the conversation. And the cameras are so good these days too. You turn on the selfie camera, with the light, and then you can, if you're in sufficient light, the dentist can see a little bit of what's going on and help you. The idea is not to replace dentistry with the phone, but to lower the barrier for that inconvenience. And so you can start the process, build a rapport, get to know again, in the case of half the population, 49% of the population by our survey that we did don't have a relationship with a dentist. And these people that don't have a relationship with a dentist, they're less than half as likely to go to the dentist regularly. So we're about building relationships. That's, again, what dentistry.com is about. But we think teledentistry is a way to do that, too.
No, it makes sense. Like, remember I asked you how often should people go, and, it depends. So if I went to a dentist and they said, like, hey, in 3 months we're going to do a quick, a video conference, like, review to see how you're doing with stuff. And you did that, you spent 5 minutes, and they said, oh, you're looking good. You don't need to come for another, 4 months, or, ooh, you better come in right now. That would really help and make connections with people, and they can get some, Okay.
Well,
that makes a lot of sense.
I know, Future Tech, I know your focus, and it really is about leveraging new technologies for all these different, industries, and dentistry is no different. In fact, they're more in need of embracing these new technologies just because they've been slow to adopt. And so, using the cell phone, why not? And I think that's exactly, it's funny you say that. The first thing that my hygienist asks me, or the doctor asks me every time I come in, is, has anything changed, right? Has anything changed in your health or with your mouth? And you could do that over the phone,
Yeah. Well, the dentist could also send you a quick video, hey, Brian, it was great seeing you today, and, I was glad we were able to do the cleaning, and, keep a watch on your, on your incisor on the lower part, and, we'll see you in 4 months and all that stuff. I mean, you can do a lot of personal touch additions with that kind of thing.
I don't know if they say this to everyone, but what they always say to me is, don't brush so hard. They can send out little reminders to remind us, don't brush so hard.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Any innovation coming that is not out there yet, but again is somewhat futuristic in the dental world? I guess the teledentistry is definitely one. Any other items?
Well, so there's a company that I'm familiar with, just because geographically, I think it's Gum Gum Dental in Santa Monica, California. They're using AI, what they call computer vision, to find pathologies in dental X-rays, and they claim that it's three times faster, maybe even more accurate. And of course, you know all about AI. It gets smarter and smarter and smarter the more data it's able to consume. Right. So that's something new that I don't know that many people know about this, but it's something that's coming. Where you're leveraging AI to spot pathologies faster and maybe more accurately than a dentist could. Certainly, a younger dentist maybe that hasn't looked at as many X-rays, to have the support of a machine learning application that is frankly just going to be better than you for a while. That's something that's new.
What about the microbiome? We have microbiome in our gut, but we also have one in our mouth. Is anyone exploring how that affects your dentition and cavities and everything?
It's a really good question, because I have been studying that, from the gut side, and I know that what you say is absolutely true. There is an environment in our mouths with bacteria, and there can be good bacteria, but too often there's bad bacteria. But I don't know of any company in dental that is directly handling that. Say, like, is the company is it Viome or Viome? Where
Viome, yeah, is one of them. Yep.
Yeah, you provide a sample, and then they're tracking your gut health. I don't know that anyone's doing that for the mouth, but what a great idea! It's a great idea. When you're eating sugar and you're eating chips. Go ahead.
Right. You said, we know that diet modulates mouth health. Genetics play a role. And then, like you said, a lot of people have a lot of bacteria in their mouth. Well, the bacteria are doing something. So depending on diet, you'll have certain ones or not certain ones there. And I bet you that's a huge reason why some people, have no problems with their teeth and some people have terrible problems. I bet you that there's got to be a tremendous influence of the bacteria in the mouth.
It is, and I think it's only going to become more pronounced and more. We're going to find ways to educate people and make it, and notify them to it, because, wellness has never been a hotter topic. It's so on fire, and the relationship of your oral health to, the risk of Alzheimer's and diabetes and heart disease, and then that other kind of catch-all, which is lowering your immune system, because your body is having to fight all the bacteria that you are feeding with your poor quality health, or, again, diet and all that. But yeah, it's fascinating. It's a wonderful time, I think, because people are going to get healthier. I think about those babies that are born today that might be living 150 years. Just crazy.
Yeah, well, hopefully so.
Mm-hmm.
So last few questions. So what specifically is dentistry.com? What's its focus? Is it more helping dentists, or is it helping individuals that go to the dentist connect with the dentist more?
Well, we have an MTP, massive transformative purpose, 5 words: transforming lives through dental care. And so that translates, the way that translates to dentistry.com is that, again, half the population, more than half, not going to the dentist. How are we going to change that? We're going to reduce fear and provide information for people in the way that they want to receive it on their mobile device, via videos, via kind of BuzzFeed-like videos, we're developing right now. And then convenience, and how do we make it easier for consumers to engage with their dentist, whether it's teledentistry or whether it's booking an appointment online, just really pushing the envelope so that more and more practices offer their calendar, or some portion of their calendar, available to new consumers that are looking to find a dentist. That's really where dentistry.com is. I would say, we want to make it a useful resource to consumers and patients. And of course, in doing so, we're going to drive more dentistry, and then all boats rise. Every dentist is going to benefit from this. My dream would be to get some very high profile spokespeople to be talking about dentistry, and we want to compete. We want to compete with meditation and yoga. So that's what we're pursuing. And then on the dentist side, getting more dentists on the platform, and then expanding our tool set. We see this as assisting them in the business of dentistry, helping them to treat consumers better, make it easier for consumers to become patients and interact with them.
Okay, makes sense. Well, very good. So best way to get in contact to find out more is just go to dentistry.com, or are there other channels that people can look at for info?
No, I would direct everyone, go to dentistry.com. You can read articles. You can search our database and read articles about dentistry. You can search for specific things, like if you have a symptom or if there's been a treatment that's been mentioned and you're curious about it, you can do that. If you have a question, you can even go to the community. It's really simple. You create an account with your Google or Facebook, if you want, or create your own, and ask a question and have a dental professional expert answer your question. So, that's one. And then find a dentist. There's a button. It's called Find a Dentist. You can search, and in our search functionality, you can search by your payment type and your location and your dental need. We're adding filters all the time, making it so that people say they want a female dentist. Okay, well then we'll search and show you only female. Or you want to book your appointment online? Then set that filter. We'll only show you practices that have online booking. That's really the place to go. And if you're a dentist listening to the podcast, make sure that you claim your practice. We have this, we call it Claim Your Practice. It's free to all dentists. They can come in, create an account, find themselves on dentistry.com, because we have in the range of 145,000 dentist profile pages, and create, fill out the content on that page so that consumers can see your face, and they can see what school you went to, and they can see why you became a dentist and your hours of operation. Think of it kind of as a Yelp, but it's specifically for dentistry. We think about it like WebMD meets Yelp meets ZocDoc. Maybe not everyone knows ZocDoc, but they're an online booking functionality.
Well, that's great. Well, excellent. Well, Brian, thanks for coming on the podcast, and I appreciate it.
It's really been a pleasure, Richard. You can tell probably I'm passionate about this because we do want to help people. And so any opportunity that we can talk about it and spread the word, I'm really grateful. So thank you very much.
You're listening to the Future Tech Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies such as artificial intelligence, stem cells, 3D printing, gene editing, Bitcoin, blockchain, the microbiome, quantum computing, virtual reality, and exploring space are much closer than you might think. In fact, many early versions of these technologies are in play right now, and the companies that are using these technologies are the focus of this podcast. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a thorny medical problem. Remember, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and tell your friends about it. Thank you.